Welcome, everybody. I'm one of the three speakers today. My name is Peter Bernegger, and we may first, with Mark Munyon here, take the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, that's politicians.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you for all coming, and I was invited to share some thoughts and ideas and some updates. There's three today that I'm going to cover. I will be speaking in the city of New London at the Tea Party chapter next week, Tuesday night. I believe it's the 23rd, if that's Tuesday. And it'll be on a different issues. So thank you. The three I'm going to cover here, I'm going to do a quick update on the redistricting lawsuits. Then the whole illusion of the Republican Party in the state of Wisconsin. I think you're going to find some very interesting questions that come up here. The last is, we've been researching this since last year. We're in the middle of the research or the research project yet of who really is running and controlling the RPW, the Wisconsin Republican Party. Today, I'm going to name the names. We found out who's doing it. It's not Robin Voss. First is the lawsuit that was filed last year on the redistricting maps since Janet for Justice, which we now call Justice for Janet, to redistrict the state legislative maps. This week, Hillary Clinton's attorney, Mark Elias, filed a second lawsuit to redistrict the U.S. congressional maps. Motion that I obtained, filed by attorney Tanya Meehan from a Washington, D.C. law firm. It's a motion to disqualify Janet for Justice based on $10 million of donations to her campaign by the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. I don't believe this motion is going to win, but it raises the issue of the volumes of money that's going into her campaign. Months ago, I tweeted out, and other social media that I'm on, I should say we're on, I have a great team helping me. We're going to remove Janet for Justice for Janet. It's going to come true. We're going to do it. We filed an ethics complaint to the Wisconsin Ethics Commission last year. They have accepted it. It was over 100 pages long. It's detailing of over $12.3 million that was laundered into her campaign. Even if she says she doesn't know about it, it doesn't matter, because it's in the state statutes, chapter 11, that she has to assume knowledge that she knew what her campaign was filing to the state campaign finance ethics commission. We are using her own numbers against her to reach to that 12.3 million. And there's numerous types of campaign finance violations that she did. I think it totals up towards 11 different types of campaign finance violations, totaling 12.3 million. The big one is smurfing, campaign money laundering. We're using her own numbers to prove that she laundered money into her campaign illegally. The complaint's been accepted. Chapter 11 also permits, once they accept it and she gets a chance to respond, and it goes back and forth, and it'll go before the ethics commission again, not the elections commission, the ethics commission, two separate entities in the state government, that it'll give us standing to go to a court, seek an order to have her removed. The commission themselves can also do the same. Now, we're not going to stop there. We have obtained an attorney out of the Carolinas that we will be filing a motion to intervene on both cases of the redistricting cases to get the disqualification of Justice for Janet Persewich, from illegal campaign finance funding and money laundering, We also filed 7 ethics complaints for campaign finance violations and smurfing, money laundering, against Josh Call. What, $3.2 million. 6 out of the 7 ethics complaints have been accepted by the commission, ethics commission. They're in progress. He has been notified. We're going to include in our motions to intervene and motions to disqualify and remove from the bench Janet for justice. We're going to do the same to force the recusal of Josh Call from those 2 cases. Now, everyone thinks that these cases are going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court eventually, meaning facts are going to be there, whether they're going to like them or not. Facts are going to be there before the U.S. Supreme Court about campaign money laundering. Now, we filed 4 ethics complaints against Tony Evers. 3 of the 4 were accepted for millions of dollars. We're going to go after Tony Evers to remove him from office. The pattern that you see, and I'm telling you about, they're their numbers. They're not my numbers. They're not our numbers. They're their numbers. If they want to challenge their numbers and say their numbers are wrong, then we got them for filing false campaign reports, which is a criminal act in Chapter 11. So we're going to get them either way. We're not going to try one way. We're trying 2 and 3 different ways that we're going to go after them. The pattern that I'm speaking about, they all use the same system or method to cheat and raise money and flood their campaigns with money. That's their Achilles heel, where we can take them all down across the country. That's why we're fighting so hard to get all this stuff filed as fast as we can. And we're backed up to the gills, but that's the way life is sometimes. So that's the first issue, right? That's all in progress. It's happening. Part of it already has happened, and it's progressing. Next issue. This is good news or bad news. The Press Gazette, 1940, about county Republican parties. I'm making arguments and raising questions today. I'm stating that you guys don't exist. It's an illusion. Here it is, 1940, in the newspaper. The Republican Voluntary County Committee of its secretary, Mr. Bolin, gave so much money for that campaign. In the same article, a couple paragraphs down, the Republican Statutory Committee, filed by Mr. Frank Blanknick, different secretary. There used to be in the Republican Party statutory committees and voluntary committees. You can see in the history, and I give great thanks to Joel Brazil and other people that I personally interviewed and documents we reviewed, and the historical nature of our state statutes, that there always was statutory Republican committees at the county level, and there were voluntary committees. Over the years, they have watered down the statutory committees. In fact, I'll give you an example. Vilas County has an incorporation. You can look it up on the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. They had an incorporation in 1958 for the Republican Party of Vilas County. They dissolved it in 1993. This occurred in basically every county in Wisconsin. The statutory Republican committees went away. There's one remaining that we can find. It's Milwaukee County. That's it. All the ones statutory are gone. And the reason why is the crooks at the Republican Party at the state level have been slowly modifying, deleting, changing state statutes. In Chapter 8, they've been changing the language. You can look at the history of it. Over the decades, they've been watering it down. They've been wanting to get rid of the statutory, because the statutory committee gives you a hell of a lot more power. They don't want those because they want to be in control and That's what's been happening. And Joel has done a lot of work of it. And I get requests daily. Look into this, look into that. Well, he caught my eye because I know the story, what happened in Ozaukee County Republican Party, which I think I'm arguing. I'm going to make the argument here. They don't exist. Neither do your committees. They don't exist. I'm explaining exactly why is my reason of my argument is that way. It was Ozaukee County. Robin Voss pulled a fast one and flipped out the conservatives last year. Membership plummeted. They installed the puppet, who now the new chairman actually does podcasts with Robin Voss's wife. They failed. I just learned this. They failed to file the papers. There will be no delegate to the convention coming up for Ozaukee County. They will not have a vote because the chairman failed to file the papers. In addition, he missed the deadline to file the papers for Republican observers at the upcoming election in February. They didn't file the papers at all. There will be 0 Republican observers in Ozaukee County at the next election because of the new chairman. And you asked me, he missed 2 filing dates and he didn't file anything to say, hey, I forgot, squeeze me in or make an exception or something. Still to this day, he hasn't filed those papers. You have to think it's by design. At least it raises the question. Right. Now, the reason I say you don't exist. In the statutes, in Chapter 8 specifically, they've been modifying, deleting, changing, omitting language, reducing the statutory. It still exists, but the power of it and the language of it is watered down dramatically. Right? You have so-called, the RPW wants you to believe you have voluntary Republican Party county committees. You don't. The reason why, when you file for an organization, a volunteer organization in the state of Wisconsin, now you can have one for your local group, your volunteers, you can have a constitution and bylaws. Here's the key. Under Chapter 184, there's a little bit in Chapter 66 of the state statutes. The key is, as soon as you contact a government entity to be recognized, which is what? The Barron County Republican Party contacted the State Finance Committee to get a committee ID number. Bingo. They also filed with the federal government for an EIN number. Okay? They contacted the government. Bingo. You have to have a charter. I've been asking 6 different conservative county GOP party chairmen for their charters. They can't get them to me. They don't exist. The RPW doesn't want you to know that. Because a charter is like an articles of incorporation. It creates a legal entity. Even if you're a volunteer organization under Chapter 184, the articles used for an LLC, an Inc., it creates the legal entity. Now that's a more official legal entity, but in Wisconsin, you can have a volunteer organization. But as soon as you go to the government and ask for something to be recognized, bingo, that kicks in. You need a charter. The charter in this context is or are the articles of incorporation. The RPW, I cannot find one. If you have a charter, please get one to me. I don't think you can find one. Now I have an email that probably most of you have seen or heard about. Is from Mark Jefferson. He was pressed on the issue. And Mark Jefferson, of course, is supposedly the president or the lead officer of the RPW Wisconsin. And he states the county constitution serves as the actual charter. I'm telling you, he lies. Because in the RPW's constitution, that's right here, and you probably most of you read this, Article 6, Section 5, it says the executive committee of the RPW shall furthermore have the power to approve constitutions and bylaws for county organizations. Then it has a comma. And to issue charters to the Republican Party of blank county. You don't have charters. You don't exist. Your committees that you're going around and saying, I'm a chairman of the Wapaka County Republican Party, it doesn't exist. It's nothing more than 5 of my neighbors sitting at the kitchen table with me, and the 6 of us say we're an organization. And we have state recognition, and we have a federal EIN number. No, we don't, because we don't have any charter. We don't have any articles of incorporation. It's required by statute. Look at chapter 184, then read chapter 18 or 8. The RPW is pulling a fast one on you. It's an illusion. Then it gets better. It says, it be being the duty of the county organization to so issue charters to towns, villages, wards, organizations. You can't issue a charter to these towns, villages, block captains, committeemen, because you don't have a charter. Their constitution is saying this, and the catch is here. The executive committee may, upon 2/3 vote, revoke the charters. It doesn't say revoke the constitution of the county. Their own constitution is telling you to be issued by the RPW. I can guarantee you this. There's a charter issued from the Republican National Committee to the state RPW. I guarantee it. Because the National Committee would never, ever, ever let that out of their control. But Robin Voss and his minions, who I'm going to name here, in fact, they're not his minions, they're his bosses, who's really controlling the RPW. The Barron County Republican Party, as you thought before you walked in this door, my argument is it doesn't exist because you don't have a charter. A charter is a legal contract that creates the entity, in this case being a volunteer organization, which are allowed in the state of Wisconsin. So, if you accept my argument, you take lemons, as they say, and make it into lemonade. Here's some suggestions. You demand to see your charters. When were they issued? Who signed them? What date were they issued? Who were they issued to? Who were they issued by? Demand to see the charters because it's in the RPW's constitution. It's their own wording. The second is, I would immediately go file incorporation papers, a nonprofit corporation, for the statutory Republican committee of your county. I'd do it immediately. It's still permitted, even though it's watered down, it's still permitted under Chapter 8. They can't touch you then. You're going to control the name. You're going to control it in your county. It's allowed by state statute. Then once you get that incorporation, nonprofit, Inc., as a 501(c) or C or 4, you'd have to go talk to an attorney. Then you're going to have real control under state statute, and you can't have an RPW telling you what to do. The last is, I'm going to do this. I'll take Ozaukee County. We could do it Barron. If Barron County gets ousted today at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, when they put in the new puppet, he's going to be in the hot seat. File public records or ethics request to the Ethics Commission and to the IRS and ask them, look, I know this organization in Barron County Republican Party doesn't have a charter. Is it still a legal entity under a volunteer organization chartered by the RPW, which is chartered by the RNC? So I'm going to challenge them because they're acting in the official capacity before the federal government with the EIN, an official state capacity with their committee ID number that you obtained from the campaign finance section of the Ethics Commission of the state of Wisconsin. That mandates then at that point, you had to get a charter. The RPW doesn't want to know what I just all told you because they're creating this illusion. And I would also seriously question, very seriously, some of you have insurance policies. Ask that insurance company, tell them first, we don't have a charter, I can't produce one. Because you have to be honest with your insurance carrier, or you could be accused of insurance fraud. These are questions I'm raising. So if your organization's out doing a parade and you incur a liability, what legal entity is insurance company insuring if you don't have a charter? Ask them, do I need a charter? Because otherwise it's your butt on the line. And you know how attorneys can come after you in a split second to come after you and file a lawsuit for liability. There's attorneys out there who won't hesitate. They'll file it in 2 seconds. You could all be exposed potentially, if my arguments are correct, you could be exposed to some massive liability. Some little kid gets run over in a parade, it's your butt on the line. That's why you demand to see the charter from the RPW. If someone has one, love to see it. I've been asking and asking and asking. Nobody can produce one. Can you produce a charter, sir? Well, I'll save questions, okay? Third and last topic. When the Ozaukee County Party got taken over by the bad guys, we started investigating who is behind this, who's doing this. As I said earlier, it's not Robin Voss. We found out who's really documents is based on person-to-person interviews of some old timers, put it that way. And I want to comment, Robin Voss and his minions did change again the state statutes in 2014, watering down statute chapter 8, which permits voluntary and statutory committee organizations at the county level. So it was happening like 1993, 1999, 2014. So it was just a slow progression over time. And even going back earlier than that, progression over time where they're pushing out, they did push out the statutory organizations. There's only one left. There should be 72. There's only one. Where's the other 71? They're gone. I think it was by design. When you read the history from the start to the beginning, I think it's 1928 is when the official Republican Party of the state of Wisconsin in this day and age was created. But the late 60s, even, they started changing things, push out the statutory because they can't control that, but they can control the voluntary, except they don't have a charter issued to you guys, to your counties. People who run the Republican Party. The first you do know is Reince Priebus. Of course, I don't even have to show you a picture. You all know what Reince Priebus looks like. Second one, James E. Ladwig. By the way, Reince Priebus is a lobbyist. Whether he's registered or not, he's a lobbyist. James E. Ladwig. He passed away a few months ago, but he was instrumental in this also. When he retired from the state assembly, that's what he started to do. And this is years ago, where his wife took over and got elected to the state assembly position that he retired from. Well, his wife and their son, James Jr., and I understand, I've been told James Jr. is a good guy. He's over in Racine County. Works for the county or some, maybe R.C. Johnson Wax or something now. But James E. Ladwig, who's passed away now, is a lobbyist. Next one. John Gard. John Gard, probably recognized, a former politician. He's a lobbyist. Bill McCoshen. Bill McCoshen is a lobbyist. And you know who they work for, most of them? Michael Best and Friedrich. Michael Best and Friedrich created a new division. And Michael Best Strategies, LLC. Those are the guys in the organization, Michael Best and Friedrich. And there's an attorney there. I'm confirming or trying to confirm that I should name, but I'm not going to until I can learn some more. Those are the people who are really running the Republican Party, not Mark Jefferson, not even Robin Voss. And I liken it to a mafia organization. You've got the top bosses that I just named. Then you have like the captains and or lieutenants, like Robin Voss, Schimming, Jefferson. They're just patsies, if anything. Of course, they're involved in part of it. The whole scam is $500–600 million comes into elections. Like this year, probably 600 million might come in. All they want is they don't care. They don't care because the election in February, this in November, of that $500–600 million. Where these consultants, which have already been exposed at a national level, with Ronna McDaniel and the consultants being paid as high as a 40% cut. That's all they want. It's a money operation. All your letters and fights and donations and so forth to the Republican Party, I'm sorry to tell you, it's a waste. They don't care. Robin's there to take the heat, and Mark Jefferson to respond to your emails. They're puppets, they're lieutenants, they're captains. The people I just named are the ones based on personal interviews, are the ones, the lobbyists. Lobbyists are running the Republican Party of the state of Wisconsin.
Wow.
Question.
That law firm is the one who the Republicans always go to about the legislative maps. Whenever they need a lawyer, that's who they go to. So when you're saying it's a money operation, they're getting all the money from the Republican Party, from the legislators, and then it's coming back. So that's.
Well, Mr. McCoshen and Reince Priebus, of course, they work for Michael Best and Friedrich Law Firm. The conservatives, and I'll share one last thing. The conservatives and Michael Best and Friedrich are dwindling in the Milwaukee office. The Madison office is just full of flaming liberals. There are no conservatives left in the Madison office, I'm told. And it's shrinking over in the Milwaukee office. So you could see at some point in time, we already know the rhinos are in charge, but you conceivably could have liberal attorneys in charge at some point in the future. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm Peter Bernegger. I live in New London, Wisconsin. I was retired in 2020, and then November 3rd, 2020 election came along. We had a good friend of ours come to us out of Sturgeon Bay and said she went to a voting place, a Lutheran church, across the street from her house, and she was told she had already voted. 5 of us got together, and we have a grassroots organization, but now we've incorporated into 501c3 and also 501c4. And we've been working unpaid for 3 years, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, many times, to investigate election fraud, and we found it. We found the smurfing. We're taking action. We have 22 ethics complaints filed against various politicians in the state of Wisconsin. By next week, there'll be 30 filed, and we're running around a 90% acceptance rate. They screen them by a staff attorney, they accept it, and then they process it, and it's in the process, the pipeline.
Are you an attorney?
No, I'm not an attorney, thank God. No offense, Justice Gableman. Yes, I'm up. They're cutting me off. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Mhm, mhm. Where did it go though? How do I get?
Deb, if you could mute your
Here, there was a lot of good stuff.
microphone, please.
I think talking about who is really in charge of our state Republican Party. And I think the fact that was outlined a little bit in Peter's remarks goes a long way to explaining the great schism that's in our state party right now. And I'm going to illustrate that by asking the following question. By a show of hands, I would ask everyone in this room to indicate if they are looking forward to voting for Donald Trump for president in 2024. Okay. Well, our party leader opposed to that. And Robin Voss, who is a very capable administrator, who is a very motivated and hardworking man, has pledged to do everything he can. This is the chairman, or this is the leader. He is the leader. There are others who have influence, and I think the names that Peter recited certainly have a seat at the table. But Robin Voss, I believe, he is the leader of the Republican Party in the state, and he has promised to do everything he can to make sure that Donald Trump is not the Republican nominee for president in 2024. I've been around the state a few times because right now there is a recall effort going on in the 63rd district to try to recall Robin Voss. I never thought that I would be in a position of rebel. You know, I had a fairly conventional career as an assistant district attorney and then a DA and then a circuit court judge. And then now I find myself in a room of people that were such rebels that the RPW has posted security guards outside of this door, not to protect us from any outside force, but to protect the RPW executive committee from us. That's insane. That's insane. We've come to a point where what we're seeing is the very natural outgrowth, the foreseeable outgrowth of a very unnatural situation. What I mean is this. We have in this state a person who is the highest state election officer. Her name is Megan Wolf. Everyone in this room is familiar with that name. And you know that I led an investigation that culminated in a report in March of 2022. Now, Robin Voss, as Speaker of the Assembly, promised the state that the delivery of that interim report would be just the beginning of my investigation, just the beginning. And that was, you know, short, not too long before he fired me and closed the investigation down. My conclusion from that report, based on all the facts that I included in the 134 pages, I had a good team, and my 3.5 hours discussion with Chairman Branchen's Committee on Campaigns and Elections when I delivered that report on March 1. I believe that but for the illegal conduct and the illegal ballots that were counted as a direct result of the actions of Megan Wolf, that Donald Trump would have been the declared victor of Wisconsin in 2020.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a matter of, I don't know how that can be reasonably disputed, especially with the red ink issue alone, where the law is quite clear about the requirements of witnesses signing absentee ballots and putting their names and addresses, overridden by a directive. And then we have the unnatural specter of people from New York and Chicago actually administering our elections in some of our state's largest cities. We had a guy named Michael Spitzer Rubenstein, who Megan Wolf recommended as a valuable resource. Michael Spitzer Rubenstein lives in Brooklyn, New York, and he worked on Barack Obama's campaign. He worked for Bill de Blasio. And then he came to Wisconsin with the good help of Megan Wolf and took over, literally took over the election, even going so far as to pick the venue for where the election would take place and installing secret Wi-Fi, hidden Wi-Fi connections that he alone would have access to from central processing. So we have Megan Wolf who's sitting there, and I spoke at her confirmation hearing. She's up, her term is over. Her term is over. But she stays because she says that she has a case from our state Supreme Court that says that they can't make her leave. And that's ridiculous. You know, the whole Wisconsin Election Commission, that was only created in 2016. It was created after the legislature dissolved the very corrupt, very partisan Kevin Kennedy run organization called Government Accountability Board. And at the time, we had Governor Walker in office, and we had Speaker Voss, and we had, he's a congressman now, but he was president of the Senate, Fitzgerald. And I remember calling them, asking, and first saying, thank you for dissolving the Government Accountability Board. It was, as a matter of record, a dirty organization, partisan, dirty organization that actually conducted opposition research on Republican legislators. So they dissolved it. That's great. But why replace it with this Wisconsin Elections Commission that Megan Wolf now runs? And the real answer why we even have this Frankenstein of an entity is because if they were too afraid of the press criticism, the media would criticize them if they didn't have somebody like that. Not a very noble principle by which to create a government agency. That we might get criticized in the press if we said, gee, our clerks in this state have been doing a pretty decent job and they're accountable to the people they serve. Let's just have the clerks run these elections. We got to create this Frankenstein. Here is the real nub of the issue. There might have been one or two people who didn't raise their hand when I asked if you, like me, if you're looking forward to voting for Donald Trump for president in 2024. We have the same person running our elections, Megan Wolf. Her term is over. Representative Janelle Branchen and others have filed an assembly resolution calling for her impeachment, which Robin Voss won't even let that resolution come before the body for a vote. There's one man and there's one person in this state, who with a movement of a pen could make it so that our leaders could vote on impeaching Megan Wolf. And that man is Robin Voss. So he is protecting the very person who created the situation, highly contributed to it anyway, where the wrong person was declared the victor in Wisconsin if only lawful ballots would have been counted. All of Megan Wolf's apparatus remains in effect. Nothing has changed since 2020. I cannot, for the life of me, understand why our leaders, and I can think of no good faith explanation, and I said that when I was at the legislature. There is no good faith explanation for the current election system we have in the state. And what I mean by that are the following 3 points. The following 3 points. Number one, we have our state, which we have a citizenry of that numbers about 5.5 million people, of whom about 4.5 million are eligible to vote. And on our voter rolls, we have over 7 million names. 4.5 million people eligible to vote, over 7 million on the voter rolls. Now, Megan Wolf by saying, well, the federal law, HAVA, Help America Vote Act, requires us to keep a historical record of everyone who's voted in our state. And my response to the legislature was to say that that may be true, but the Historical Society is located about 1.5 miles west of the Capitol. Put that list there. Do not keep them on the active voter roll. Now there's another trick. They made up this active and inactive. So when you a registered voter in Wisconsin dies, they're no longer ineligible to vote, which is what the statute, which is what the law says. But rather, Megan Wolf created a term and continues to use it. That dead person becomes an inactive voter who remains on the voter roll. You could not create a voter roll. There may be no fraud. There may be no misuse of that voter roll at all. But you couldn't design a voter roll that would assist by the fact of creating a surplus of over 3 million names that if wrongdoers, bad actors, wanted to bolster the ballot count for their preferred candidate, they could activate a dead person, vote a ballot, and no one would ever know the difference. This room could go on the Wisconsin WisVote system and make up any names, hundreds of names, do it all day long. Hundreds of names, hundreds of addresses, and whatever mailing address you want the ballot to be sent to, and register as a fictitious military absentee voter. And no one would ever check. And you could mail those ballots in, or a confederate of yours could mail those ballots in, and no one would ever know. When I represented a client in a lawsuit the day before the election last year, the November election, asking them to stop. And by the way, that same lack of accountability, that same ease of fraud applies. Say you have a thing about the military and you have such deep respect that you don't want to abuse or pretend to be a military person. You could just say, well, I'm a Wisconsin citizen, but I temporarily reside in Mexico or Spain or somewhere else, called a temporary foreign resident ballot. You could make up names, you could make up addresses, and you could have them, the ballot sent wherever you wanted. You could register, never have to show a voter ID for either military absentee ballot or temporary overseas resident. And no one would ever know. So that's issue number one. Why is it that we have a voter roll that is seemingly designed to help people perpetrate election fraud by voting non-existent voters. There's no good reason for that. That must be reformed. That must be that we have an accurate voter roll that includes only people who are alive, that does not include people we know have moved across the state or out of the state. We must have a voter roll that accurately represents who actually is supposed to be able to vote. And it cannot be, there is no good faith reason why Megan Wolf and her support, Voss, her protector, Robin Voss, if you or I wanted to see the voter roll of our great state, paid for. You've already paid for it with your tax dollars. They won't show it to you unless you give them $12,500.
That's right.
And that only gets you 1 day's worth.
Yep.
Again, there may be no fraud. But if you wanted to perpetrate fraud and you had a warehouse of over 3 million inactive, that is dead or people we've know have moved out of state, and then you wanted to hide those names from public knowledge behind a $12,500 fee that only gets you less than 1 day's worth of information. So if you bought it yesterday, it's not the same as the information that's on it today. That must change. And how it must change, you've already paid. How it must change is it must be put up in real time on the internet for anyone who wants to see the names and addresses of the people who are supposedly eligible in our state to vote. Why? Because that way, anyone who wanted could check for themselves. If you wanted to take responsibility for your block or your neighborhood or your precinct, you could simply take the voter roll and compare it to the people who live next door or down the street. And you could easily see, which now is impossible unless you pay $12,500. The third recommendation that I made to the legislature, and which Robin Voss has failed to act upon, and there's no good faith reason. Right now, if you want the list of the names and addresses of the people, so you want the voter roll, that's 12,500. Those are the people eligible. You want to see who actually voted. Well, that's a steal, because Megan will only charge you $10,500 for that. You have to take that away, and you have to put it up on the internet in real time to see. And here's the key. They had all sorts in 2020, what led to what I believe the incorrect candidate being declared the victor, the unlawfully declared victor in our state. All you'd have to do is take the list of the people who voted and compare it to the list of the people who were eligible to vote. Now, they had during that 2020 election all sorts of people who were being paid by Mark Zuckerberg, who had declared that Donald Trump is an enemy, and who had hired David Plouffe to administer his $450 million aid package to swing states, including our 5 largest cities. And they had paid Zuckerberg employees and agents making changes of activating and deactivating voters. And there's no way to find out who made those changes, and that has to stop. It has to be that the changes are up for everybody to see. And equally as important, we have to be able to see, the people of this state are entitled to see who is making those changes. Who? These. And we're down the hall We're down the hall from an executive committee that has stationed a security guard outside of themselves from mile punch. I wish those people with anyone has an objection. These are not the people who need security guard. We
Guys, let's hang on just a second and see if he comes back in. So the call's still open. Hopefully he'll rejoin and we'll be good to go.
let me tell you what Robin is trying to do to me. It was, and this is why, before I just realized, just please remember, this life is so short. And one of the reasons that I wear this big ring of Saint Benedict is to keep Satan away, which implies a trust in God, which I have. When I took the job of investigating this election, I took it only because I knew, because I had known other people that Robin called before me, and they said, no way would I ever take that, no way. And when he called me, I took it because I knew that nobody else in this state would take it if I said no. And I had to do it. And I had to try to find out the truth. I originally agreed it to do for no money. That's how desperate I was to keep him from finding somebody else who might be a little more manageable for Robin. I have had the privilege and blessing in my career from the day I started as an assistant district attorney in Langley County to the 10 years I spent on the Wisconsin Supreme Court and all the way in between. My only job was to do what I thought was right under the law. And that was, thank you. And I did it to the best of my ability, and I didn't care about anything else. And so that's why it comes as a great disappointment that someone, a public servant, would care so much about being a chairman of a committee that no one's ever heard of and no one will ever care about, that he's going to sell himself to Robin in order to keep that. And Robin's control me. One thing I did insist upon, and by the way, we did change as things picked up. I did start to get paid. And then when he called me on the carpet to criticize me, I made him, it was $10,000 a month for me, but I made him cut that in half. And he had a whole room full of his most vigorous assembly lackeys and minions. And I wanted those people to, I shouldn't say it, you know what? Individually, they're good people. If you talk to them, if they're your neighbor, those assembly people, their members are nice, good people. But there's something about when they get in a group in Madison and they sit around with the speaker, I wanted those people to be able to see that it's possible to say no to Robin Voss's money. and still do fine. So Robin is trying to, I insisted that I have an indemnification agreement, which when the Democrats brought their ethics charges, which they brought 2 sets now, I insisted that the state cover me for that insurance. Well, Robin, for the first one, dragged his heels so much that the same firm in Washington, D.C. that's representing Mike Lindell and Kurt Olson and a lot of prominent lawyers from the Trump administration, they said, we can't understand why he's not paying our fee. Well, finally, a few days before Thanksgiving, Robin paid. It was a lot of money, but they did damn good work. It was about $52,000, which I cannot afford. Robin finally, after months and months, agreed that he'd live up to his end of the bargain. But you know what he extracted from my lawyers? He said, you can't file anything else for Gablemen unless you get my approval first. So he's trying to put me under his thumb and be afraid because he's got the money. Listen, I've been around the state the last few weeks. I believe to the marrow of my bones that if the people in his district collect enough signatures to get the recall on the ballot, that Robin will lose.
Yeah.
And right now, the greatest need that the people who are doing, and I see the great Harry Wade. He always gets so mad at me when I point him out. But God love you, Harry. Man, thank you. Thank you. Harry told me the other night, and with Jim, the greatest need they have is more people to go door to door to get signatures on this recall. We need that. We need that. And I'm asking you, I'm begging you, please go down there. And it's only because of the faith and courage of the people in this room and other courageous people who are here with us in spirit that I have this pin that our friend from Fond du Lac County, I think, made up.
Manitowoc.
What?
Manitowoc.
Manitowoc County, these beautiful recall boss pins. Well, I don't have a choice that I put it on my sweater. And when I go to talk, RPW, Brian Shimming, our chairman, and all the others can see exactly where I stand. Thank you for being here. We are going to do our best for Jim, but quite candidly, when I spoke on Jim's behalf on November 15, I told him that I looked at the other side of that table of our esteemed, I shouldn't say that, they are nice people. If you talk to them, I've known many of them for 20 years. Those people who are going to decide Jim and Barron County's fate. Individually, they're nice people. Brian Shimming, I've known a long time. Good guy. They don't have the power now. They don't have the independence. They don't have the power to save Barron County. They've been given instructions, either explicitly or implicitly. There may be some miracle where they change. But the true value in this meeting is to show Jim that we love him and we support him. And we're going to tell RPW the same thing. But then after this, we got to get to work in the 63rd district so that we can get rid of Megan Wolf, who created this mess and who Robin is now protecting. Thank you for listening. I look forward to talking again, and may God bless all of you.
Hi.
Hi.
A lot of you in here know me.
a lot of you that don't are gonna get to know me real well, regardless of today. I don't know how to do this, but just, I'm gonna go around the room real quick. Tell me your counties.
St. Croix.
St. Croix, Polk. Kenosha,
St. Croix.
Sauk. Somebody counting? There's a bunch already. You guys.
Dane.
Dane.
Sawyer.
Sawyer. Dane. Portage.
Shout it out.
Okay. You guys are done county? Yep. Juneau. Burnett, Dane, Polk, Manitowoc, Rusk. Well, this turnout is really quite humbling. I'm not normally an emotional guy. This is emotional, okay? I can't thank you enough for being here today. There's 6 or 7 county chairman and vice chairman that couldn't be here today, that we're planning on being here last Saturday.
You're on the phone, somewhere on the phone,
Oh, what?
somewhere on that phone right there.
Oh, they're listening.
Yep.
Good. So I gotta start this off with 2 God stories because God is important. I don't know what it was, a month or 2, I got a call to sit in with some trusted chairman with Justice Gablemen in a somewhat private meeting. I told one of my existing executive committee members about that a few days, and he says, wow, he says, wouldn't it be neat to have him come help us support this? And I looked at him and I said, Ted, well, if you're gonna wish big. And he says, well, I'm going to say a prayer about that, and I hope you do too. And we did. We had the meeting. We only talk about what was going on in Barron County for just a blurb in that meeting, because we were there for other reasons. And about 5 days later, I think it was, all of a sudden I get a call and it's Mike Gablemen. He says, guys need some help. Okay. So, and I told him that story too. And so I put that on God. God tapped him on the shoulder and sent him to Barron County.
Yeah.
Now we got to Barron County. We did a bunch of homework and investigation and really what the shameful part is, and Peter hit on some of this, to where there is no statutory nothing that our statutory expert that did this his whole life, you know, Mike turned into a negotiator and he's a damn fine one. Okay. But when it comes right down to the rubber meeting the road, we as county parties, county chairman, we have no standing to make an argument. Okay. They're inviting us into a room today for the optics. Okay. We could stand there in the window and they could say, Chairman Swenson, what color is the sky? Say, well, it's blue with white fluffy clouds. And guess what? They don't have to hear it. They don't have to accept it. They're going to tell you what the sky looks like. Okay. The beauty of this whole thing, well, comes back to my second prayer that we made, but we were prepping for that November meeting. Mike was in the room, Justin, Bruce, the people that are back there at our table. And we said another prayer and said, if Barron County Charter needs to be destroyed, please allow it to reveal the corruption of RPW and our state elected officials. Now, I can tell you just on my end of the deal, I could give you all a laundry basket. We can run around like nuts and we can't catch it all. It is dropping so fast. We need to catch it all.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a handful of people that are circulating emails. I appreciate that. Okay. Here's what I'll ask you all to do. And being that this is going to happen today, the ask time is over. How many Republican Party members are here? How many of you are sitting as delegates for your county? Okay, do not give up your delegate positions or your authority. Okay, you got to hold that until after this state convention. Okay, otherwise they're going to just throw more curveballs and do what they want to do. So in the meantime, when you go to your district caucuses, they're going to BS us in here again today, and they're probably not going to do a per person vote. So I think what you need to do when you walk into that caucus, and I hope you all know Robert's rules, you make a motion to suspend the rules, and then you hold your district chairman and vice chairman feet to the fire and recall them right on the spot. Okay, these are the people that sit on this committee. Okay, I don't know if you all know, your county, regardless of where you sit, you only have input on 3 individuals out of that committee of 30. Your chairman, your vice chairman, and Jesse Garza, who is the chairman of the chairmans. Okay, the other 13 of them, including the chairman, Shimming, are all appointed. Okay, so one of the things that we've discussed, and for those that don't know me, I'm a hellraiser. I love to fight. Okay, but 99% of the time when I'm bitching, I bring a solution. Okay, I told this to Chairman Shimming yesterday, which was the first phone call that he and I have had over this 9-month ordeal. And I had to reach out to him. Okay. So, you know, I've had some smart people say, well, let's all go into the Constitution Party. Let's all go to the Independent Party. I'll tell you what, that's the wrong answer. We need to take back control of this party.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm probably not going to be a member of Barron County after this, because it wouldn't surprise me if they don't figure out how to kick me out. Well, you know, I think we have 72 county parties here. I think there's 2 that don't, Ashland and somewhere else. Okay. I probably will be a member of all those 70 counties. Okay. Because I intend on going through this state, coming to your organizations, whether it's Patriot or Republican Party, and selling the solution. I want your input. The solution to this, in a nutshell, is creating a Bill of Rights, a county Bill of Rights. Okay, you can force that through at your caucuses, the convention. There's 3 ways to do it: through the RPW, Constitution. Don't be surprised if they don't change the rules on that, because somebody will tell them. We always get told on. Okay, you just got to do it. You force it through. You don't do it through resolution. So this Bill of Rights needs to protect us as county parties. Okay, because right now, and I haven't read all of your district constitutions. However, I know in mine and a few that I have read, we have no recourse to our leadership. There's nothing we can do, which then reflects you back to Robert's Rules of Order and handling a trial process, which, well, we're in it today. Somebody snuck down there and said, my God, it looks like a courtroom down there. Okay. Today is nothing other than optics. Okay. I got some smart people that are on this team. Okay. That have been helping me defend this. There's smart people that call me every day. My God, I'm not kidding you. And they can attest to it. I do 70 to 80 hours a week to turn Barron County into the county that it is. As of December 31st, we had 347 members. Okay. I'm not one of these guys, but I personally went out and recruited 305 of those, or set something in place like our Second Amendment rally, which is the biggest rally in northern Wisconsin. If you ever, I think we're probably going to do one regardless whether it's Republican Party or not. Okay. We get over 700 people showing up there. And so I guess how are we doing on time?
1:48.
Okay. Well, if I'm late for theirs, I really don't give a damn. Okay. The only thing that's really making this happen and keeping me from playing the old Navy, come over here and choke yourself with some people, it is my humor. Okay, we're laughing, we're having a good time, we're here for a good time. The only reason we are here today is because I don't quit. Quitters are guilty. We have done nothing wrong. RPW has chosen to support a junior state senator to the tune of about $250,000 of campaign money. They picked him over one of the top counties in the state. Okay. And they call us grassroots. Well, what we're finding out, and things like Peter just told you, you know what grassroots is? It's a word that comes out of that hole under their nose. Until we have some standing to do what needs to be done. Like I said, I will come anywhere in the state and teach you guys how to fix this. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if it's worthwhile fixing it at this point, unless we get that Bill of Rights through. My personal prediction is I think you're going to see the RPW disassemble itself, and this is the starting point.
Let's help it.
A new friend of mine that I haven't met yet. Some of you might know Ken Sikora. Anybody know Ken from Ocano? People that know us both really well say, you guys are like genetic dupes, you know? If they have a problem in the Republican Party room, they ought to just send you two in there and tear it up. Okay. And I've got to talk to him on the phone a few times. He was going to really try and make it here. I think he had a funeral. But we're going to travel. We're going to send the message. The point that he made to me the other day is, regardless of what happens, it's us that need to continue this message and sharing this message. Or by the time we get to the state convention, it's going to die. Okay, they'll forget about us. I joke about memory, but I joke about it in a good way. I really feel I probably have Alzheimer's because I don't need to remember because I tell the truth.
Yep.
Okay. A lot of the folks don't like truth. But Peter had some really inspiring information. Yep. We had found out some of the same things on our own investigation. I even went to the point to go to my insurance company and my bank, because, you know, to open up an account or get a policy, you got to prove who you are or show that letter of incorporation. I went to both of them, and they've sold our party insurance, and we've been in that bank for 25 years, and there's no record there of who we are either. Okay, so this is going to be a problem for them. We're going to make a few protests today when that meeting starts, and we're not going to sit there and argue. My table's got class. Okay, and anybody that is observing from the outside, I mean, how much more integrity do I need to prove when Justice Gablemen's sitting at my left? That's volumes.
Yep.
And I can't thank him enough. Okay? So we're all gonna have some fun here. See, he even missed the comment. I gave you a big good one there, Mike, and you missed it. But other things I should hit on here, Justin?
Right. Big deal.
We are gonna put that out there as an idea. It doesn't have to be lengthy. It has to be very simple. What are you waving, young lady? Well, yeah, send letters, tell these people what you think, hold them accountable, okay? This whole fiasco started because we figured out a couple of years ago how to get into the leadership of RPW. So we kept a secret, and I shared it with a few people through other districts, and it wasn't until on the floor at the 7th District Caucus that I had a state senator from another district nominate me. Kiss of death, okay? Too many people. What did we lose by? 18 votes?
Yeah.
Over 26 counties? Okay, so that's where the big knife edge started. My state senator was messing with our executive committee and me on social media. We talked to him. These guys have egos bigger than their brain capacity, and they're not dumb people. Okay. Yes. 5 minutes, and then what?
Yeah.
Then we got to be down the other hall. Okay. Anyway, so this was about Senator Quinn. If any of you have seen these complaints that have circulated the state, they're what I call sophomoric. They're I remember like 6th grade stuff like that going on. There's nothing in that packet that justifies destroying a county party. This is about control of the delegates. So look at what your delegate count is, and you can just about determine where they're going next. Okay. Earlier I mentioned I reached out to Brian Schimming. He called me yesterday morning, and the narrative on our crimes keeps changing every time I talk to who's in charge. Okay. That's because they don't have anything. They do not have anything. This will be a miracle of God today if we walk out of there and still have Barron County. Okay. I'm not expecting it. And they have done nothing but screw up my whole year for working election integrity, earning money to finance candidates. So I'm going to look more forward to working with you guys.
There you go.
And I tell you something that should happen, and we can use people like Joel's knowledge of technology. I'm dumb. I still use a legal pad. Okay. But maybe these groups need to have a Zoom once a week, once a quarter to keep this messaging going. Okay. I truly believe this is going to be the dismantlement of the RPW as we know it. And what it's turned into, none of us would even know this unless this happened. Okay. And I sit in rooms with people that go to these caucuses and they're active. It doesn't even go through our minds. Okay. So now you've been told enough to think, investigate, and act. And are we done? Are we done in time? Okay. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go down to this meeting. I hope it doesn't last too long. They do. I don't know if they've ever met Jimmy the Hammer, but they're gonna meet him today. Okay. And I gotta thank people like Scott that brought these buttons in and all the stuff. See him. He's got some shirts for sale and everything. The little I know him, he's doing this just out of the goodness of his heart. So slide him a buck. I'm gonna continue to do some podcasts, to keep this moving and, it just is what it is. But we should, I've been saying so many, I'm about out. You wanna say one? Gotta be a quick one, don't make my knees wiggle.
Dear Lord God, we just come before you right now, Lord God. We just pray your heavenly angels will be with Jim and Justice Gablemen and the other people, Lord God. We just pray that you fill that room, Lord God. We just pray for your Holy Spirit to be moving. And we pray for your boldness to be upon Jim and Justice Gablemen. And we just pray that somehow, Lord God, that you would make things right. And you've waken up a lot of people, Lord God, and we just ask that you continue in that step and provide for protection and provision. In Jesus' name, amen.
All of our children said, yes.
Thank you. Just so you know, we're gonna head to that meeting now. This room is here till at least 7 o'clock at night. If you wanna hang around and hear what the result is, or I don't care, hey, the microphone's. Well, they're calling it closed door, but I'll argue to let you in like I do everywhere. Yeah, somebody should walk down with us and see, but if anybody else wants to talk in here while we're gone, we'll be available.
Love to get people.
Oh, if you could see Joel up here and sign in, so we at least have a contact information on who to include down the road, that'd be cool. Okay? Thanks for coming, everybody. I appreciate it.
Friends, we hope you found the information in this video helpful. You can get access to all of our content by liking, following, or subscribing to us on Rumble or YouTube. And don't forget to follow our other social media channels as well. Stay up to date on vital election coverage and candidate interviews as we cover Wisconsin and the nation. Thank you for watching, and thanks for your support.